Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Isisele. In this video, I'm going to be sharing or answering the question: if I come to Canada as a student, can I just leave school and start to work full-time? If that's the answer, you want an answer to that question, make sure you stay to the end of this video. You're going to get lots of insight from it. So let's get started. Let me just say a few things about the different routes through which you can come to Canada. You can come to Canada as a worker. Let's say you got a work permit you got an employer that gave you a job, and you are becoming as a work permit holder, or you come in as a visitor, or you come in as a student, and or you come in as a permanent resident. Okay. If you come in as a student, one of the things you need to know is that you need to have a study permit before you can even study, right? But when you apply for visa, what you get is a letter of introduction. So when you come to Canada at the airport, that's actually when they are going to give you your study permit. It is that study permit that makes you eligible to study in a Canadian university. Okay, and there are certain conditions that are attached to that study permit. If you violate that study permit conditions, it can be catastrophic, right? So there are conditions stated on that study permit, and you have to make sure that you stick to it. Okay, and one of the main reasons for that study permit to really remain valid is that because you've already told them, I'm coming to Canada to study, either for a master's program, a PhD, a diploma program, any kind of program. So when you arrive in Canada, it's important to maintain your eligibility as a student. You have to continuously remain enrolled, except maybe sometime maybe during the summer, which I'm going to talk about that. Now, when you come in and you are registered as a student, that is when you can actually do a lot of things. Okay, if you are not registered once you just come into Canada, if you are not registered as a student, which means that you are not going to have your letter of enrollment, and if you don't have a letter of enrollment, there are lots of things that you will not be able to do. I'm going to be mentioning them one after the other so that you can get great insight as to what are some of the challenges of violating or not registering as a student. Now, you must have heard me say in my previous video, if you come in as an international student, you are only entitled to work 20 hours per week, okay, during school time. And then during the summer in holiday, when you are not taking classes, you can actually work full-time. Or during holidays, let's say Christmas holiday, after writing your exam, just before school resume, you can be eligible to work more than 20 hours per week, but make sure you stay within that range, okay, so that they don't run into a problem in later on. So let's look at some of the challenges and some of the barriers and the drawback you can have if you don't remain registered as a student. Some just want to, I've heard some people telling me, I just want to immigrate to Canada. When I get to Canada, I will find my way. Yes, you will find your way, but you will find your way in the institution that gave you admission, and you have to finish that program. Okay, now if you leave that college or that university and you don't register, or let's say you've already registered as a student, and maybe after 2-3 weeks, then you decide, okay, let me just leave because I'm not registered as a student. I can just do whatever I like. I won't even continue the school. That can sustain you for quite maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And by the time you want to do some other things, they are going to request that you submit a recent enrollment letter. Let's say you came in January, and in the first week of January, you registered as a student, okay, and then after maybe the rest part of the semester, you decide not to go to school again, and then by let's say May, June, you want to do something, right? And you go there and you tell them, oh, I'm a student. They ask you bring a recent enrollment letter, and it has to be something issued within the last 30 days. So if you stop going to school in January, you are not going to have a recent letter of enrollment, and it's not going to be good for you. Okay, number one thing, health card. Okay, if you just come into Canada newly, if you are going to apply for a health card, one of the major criteria one of the major eligibility is that you must be enrolled as a student. You are going to need a recent letter of enrollment to put in to apply for your health card. If you don't get your health card, medication here and medical bills can be outrageous. It's very expensive. So you don't want to fall into a situation whereby you fall sick and you don't have health insurance. It can be very devastating. So it's always better to make sure you get your health insurance, health card. Different provinces have different provincial card. This is very fantastic, which means that as a student, most of the time you go to doctor for free, right? Depends on whatever, maybe for things like surgery and all that, you might have to pay, and there are some medications that are not covered. You have to pay for that. But just seeing like a regular checkup is going to be free for you when you are a student. But if you are not registered, you are going to miss out of this. Okay. And then secondly, opening up a bank account. When you come in as a student, if you go to the bank and you want to open a bank account, they're going to ask you, where is your letter of enrollment? Okay, with your letter of enrollment, they are going to probably give you like maybe a student discount or like a student account in your bank. The reason why this is beneficial is that if they don't give you that particular type of bank account, you are going to be paying monthly charges. Okay, but as a student with a student account, it's going to be free. No monthly charges that you need to pay for your account. But if you leave school and your student validity expires, then if you want to renew it, it's going to be a problem, because they're going to now ask you, bring a recent letter of enrollment. And if you are not registered and if you've left school and you're doing something else, then it's going to be a very big problem. Okay. The third problem that can arise if you don't continue schooling is you won't be eligible to apply for a post-graduation work permit. Because to be eligible to apply for the post-graduation work permit, you're going to need a letter of completion from the program that you did. Whether it's a diploma, master's, or PhD, it doesn't matter. But you will need that letter of completion to state that you successfully met the requirement of, and then whatever university board they've decided to, award you this particular degree, and your certificate. You are going to need that, to be eligible to apply for the post-graduation work permit. So if you don't have it, if you are not registered as a student, if you don't finish your schooling, then that's going to be a problem. Which means that if you don't have a post-graduation work permit, if your study permit expires and you are not in school, then you will not be able to extend your study permit. Because if, let's say, you are still in school, your study permit expires and you still have a couple of courses, maybe two more semesters to go, one more semester to go, you can actually extend your study permit. That way, when your study permit comes in, you can continue studying, right? And even when you submit your application, before they make a decision, even though it has expired, as far as you apply, I think about 30 days before the expiration date, you can keep studying. But if you don't have this settled out, then it's going to be a problem. If it expires, you can't extend it and you can't apply for the post-graduation work permit. If you don't do that, you won't be able to get a work permit to get a Canadian work experience that will now make you eligible to apply for the express entry through the Canadian experience class. So it's already going to be, very devastating situation. So you don't want to put yourself in that undue stress. Okay. And the fourth thing you can miss out of is all of the student benefit, because if you're registered as a student, you'll be able to get access to the university. Usually have student health center or student health care, right? So if you go there, they're going to ask you, where is your student ID? So if they put in your student ID, they are going to see that you are currently registered or not registered. Even though you had an ID when you started your program, if you don't continue to remain registered, you might just have the ID, but by the time they put your identity card, your ID, your school ID number on the system, it's going to show that this particular student, I don't want to call you a student now, this particular person is no longer registered as a student, and as such, you will not have access to your university health care. Okay, and then you might also miss out on some very good conferences. As a student, you're eligible to apply for funding to go for conferences. So if you are not registered, then you're going to miss out from all of these conferences where you'll be able to build a lot of connections. So you miss out of that. So my advice for you, if you're coming to Canada to study, you have to remain a student. But there are a couple of options that you can do. These are just maybe if you're not very comfortable with the program you're doing, or you don't like the province that you're doing. If you're already in Canada and you now have a study permit, one of the things you can do, if you want, you can change school. Okay, you can decide to go for another school. And if, for example, the course you are currently doing is quite expensive and you want a school that is much lower, it's just to apply for admission in the school. When you apply for admission in the next school, it might be the same province, different province. You can go there. The only thing that you need to do is that you need to let the immigration officers know, or the Canada immigration, to know that you have now changed school. Okay, there is a form that you fill online to transfer because your study permit, let's say you are in Newfoundland or in Alberta, your study permit is going to show Alberta AB or NL in Newfoundland. Okay, so if you're moving to another province, you're going to let them know you don't necessarily need to apply for a new study permit. Just fill a form online and tell them that you have changed your institution. That way, you still maintain your eligibility. Okay, and if you're in a province that is very expensive and you want to move to a less expensive province in terms of cost of living, that is very fine. It's all up to you. Depends on your condition, depends on how much you're worth, depends on if you came into Canada with money, if you have sponsor, your parents and any other person willing to sponsor you. Okay, but if you don't have that, I think it's important. I know somebody, right, that did that, so I'm talking from experience. The person was actually schooling in Newfoundland, doing a course in engineering, and then the person actually thought, well, I've always had this passion for web design and graphic design. The person actually applied for another school in Ontario, Ottawa precisely, and when they got the admission, they went there, right? This person now, he's done with his program, and then he's worked for about 1 year, and has even applied for his permanent residency. So that if you change school, it's not going to decrease your chances of applying for your permanent residency. Okay, so but just make sure you do what is comfortable for you, and make sure you remain registered as a student so that you can enjoy all the benefit. And another thing is that if you are not registered as a student and you're working, you can run into a lot of problems, right? Because one of the conditions for you to be able to work 20 hours per week is that you are registered as a student. If you're not registered as a student, it can be a very big problem. Okay, so try to remain registered. It's just going to be about a year or two, depends on the program. Or for PhD, it might be a little bit longer, but the sacrifice is worth it. I always tell people with Canada, do what is required. Follow the due process. If you try to cut corners, it's going to backfire. Okay, follow the regulations, follow all the laid down processes for every immigration route that you are pursuing. Follow it duly. If you follow it duly, you are not going to run into any trouble. But if you try to cut corners, you cannot outsmart the system, because the people that created those systems, they know exactly what is acceptable and what deviations people can do and how people can abuse that particular situation. So try as much as possible to make sure that you remain registered as a student so that you can enjoy all the benefit. That's going to be all for this video. If you found this video useful, please do well to hit the subscribe button and smash that comment and that like button, and so that whenever new videos are released, because you're subscribed, you will be the first to be notified of my videos. And if you have specific questions that I have not answered, that I have not talked about during this video, please do it to leave a comment in the comment section, and then I'll try to address the question as soon as possible. Once again, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next video. Signing out.